Hey, gorgeous light. It's Alyssa here. Welcome to another episode of Magic and Miracles, where today we're going to talk about frequency first and how using this idea of frequency first helped me manifest my first and second dream home. So really excited about this episode for you today. This is your host, Alyssa Rushton, and I'm so excited that you are here and that you're listening. So thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. This is a little bit of a new format. If you've been listening to the show for a while, I do these little tea chats. And so today is a tea chat. I'm having a cup of tea. I'm hanging out in Canada, and we're just going to have a little conversation today, you and I, about how to use frequency first in your life to create what you want. So I actually got this idea. I was listening to a podcast from, I'm not going to say the name of the host, the show host, because she's kind of a big name. And she was talking about how she manifested her dream home. And as I was listening to her talk about her manifesting, I literally thought, okay, you're not talking about manifesting. You are talking about grinding it out in the 3D world. And yes, you did end up getting the house that you wanted, but it was a grind. And so I want to talk about a different way to manifest, how you can really trust and follow your intuition, and how you can use frequency specifically to help infuse everything you do so that you can know when something's coming in, if it is a true manifestation or a creation, as I like to call it, because I believe you create every single thing in your life, or if it's a contrast creation, so that you can be on the lookout for that contrast and send it back to the universe and say, no, I choose not to do this contrast, which, by the way, a contrast experience is usually one that's not going to be fun for you. So we're going to talk about all these things today. So I encourage you to grab a cup of tea, hang out with me, and let's dive in. Let's talk about the concept of creating your life and manifesting what it is that you want. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I was always taught that when you get the house, you'll feel amazing, or when you get the bank account, you'll feel incredible. Like that's the goal, is to get the bank account. And it's this idea or this notion that keeps you always living in the future and keeps everything sort of just out of arm's reach. When I was living in Hawaii, I really got this with the capital got, like capital G-O-T, I got this. Because I had always wanted to live in Hawaii or someplace really tropical since I was 14. I went on a tropical trip to Costa Rica and I was like, oh, I have to live someplace tropical. It just lights up my soul. So I got the opportunity, manifested one of my first houses in Hawaii in 2015. And it was a bit of a contrast house for me, but I was so excited to be in Hawaii. Here's the thing though. I always thought once I got to paradise, my life would be paradise. And I quickly realized that I had taken myself to paradise, and I got to meet myself in paradise. And what I noticed was myself wasn't as happy and fulfilled as I thought. At the time, I was making 6 figures in my business, and I had this house now in tropical paradise on an acre of land, just nestled up right against this beautiful old Hawaiian wall and right close to the ocean within walking distance. It literally fit all my criteria for my dream house, except it wasn't that. And so while living in this house, I realized that there was a frequency component that I was missing when I created this house that I was living in. The frequency that I wanted to feel, and I equate frequencies to feelings. So the frequency that I had really wanted to feel in my body was relaxed. I don't know if you heard that, but that was a ding on my computer in the other room, which never happens. I wanted to feel relaxed. I wanted to feel at ease and at peace. I also wanted to feel a certain sense of luxury, which I didn't feel any of these things in my Hawaiian house. Yes, it was in paradise. Yes, it was a beautiful home. Yes, I had a park-like lawn, but I didn't feel any of those feelings. So the first key to manifesting or creating what you want is using the frequency first. Identify right now the top 3 or 4 desired feelings that you would want to have when you have the thing that you're wanting, whether it's your dream home or your dream bank account or your dream car. Identify those feelings. Once you know those feelings, I'm going to tell you what to do next. I was in the process of selling that house, and I knew I needed to find someplace different to live. And I still wanted to remain on the island. And I knew I wanted to be in a really different location on the island. But real estate over on this other side of the island was very expensive and it was hard to come by. There wasn't a lot on the market at the time. So every weekend I would put on my favorite Boney James jazz song and I would drive over the mountain and I would listen to Boney James and I would cue up the song George Benson, Breezin', just as I rolled into this little community that the very first time I entered into this community, I knew I wanted to live there. So I would then feel the feelings of what it felt like to drive into this community, just all relaxed, feeling at ease, feeling at peace. And I would just cue that up in my nervous system. I did this for a couple of months. I made the 2-hour drive over the mountain. I would just drive in, listen to George Benson Breezin'. Sometimes on the way over the mountain, I would listen to things like Esther Hicks or a lot of Wayne Dyer tapes just to get my mind in the right place. I say tapes, but I don't have a tape deck. I am dating myself though. I listen to my Audible account. So I'm listening to these things, queuing up all these really positive, easy, wonderful, peaceful vibrations, imagining myself feeling so amazing driving into this little community there by the ocean, a little resort community. Every week, I would also do the work of looking on the internet and searching for properties. And I couldn't find one. And it was coming on the time when I knew I needed to move. Things were getting critical. And it was October now. And I started this process, by the way, in July of 2016. And so now it's October. I still haven't manifested my house, but I'm in the feeling of it. Okay. I'm in the feeling, but nothing on the market. No, nothing's popping. So I still holding the frequency that I wanted, took a trip to go to California. And while I was in California, I just said to the universe, universe, if it's not meant for me to be in this little community, that's okay. But the feelings that I would love to have, the frequencies I want to run. And I release attachment to the area that I'm living in, but the frequencies I want. I just decided while I was in California, I happened to be staying in this great place in San Clemente. And I looked around and was looking for real estate there and didn't see anything that popped. So I get back on the plane. I go home to the Big Island. I woke up the very next morning and I just heard search now on the internet. Just enter in your same Google search. So I did. And boom, there popped my property. It came right up there for me to see. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. It ended up that I was there in that house for the next almost 4 years. And it was, in fact, my dream home. It fit all my criteria. It fit all of the things that I wanted. But I really feel like it's one of those things where I had to run so much of the frequency of peace, of ease, of joy through my system so that my system really anchored that in. Now, I'll tell you an interesting bit about this story. And I think this is really one of the most important parts to remember as you're doing your creations, as you're making your way through creating what you want in the world. When I was driving over the mountain every single weekend, one of the things I would do is I would stop in different real estate offices. And one day I happened to stop in this real estate office and I was talking to this realtor and he said, I might have something that could be helpful for you and could work out for you. So he said, I'm going to give you a number of this gentleman who's a butler. And I think he may be able to help you out. So I met up with this butler and the butler said, oh yes, I've got this house available. Come meet with me. It's for rent and come meet with me and you can see if you like it. And so I did. I met with this butler and I walked into this place and I instantly knew, even though it fit all my criteria, that it wasn't the place for me. And I also knew it had a really, a not so good vibration inside the house. And I knew my house had to be a sanctuary for me. And I wanted to feel just a certain way. And this house felt the opposite of that. Now, here's the thing about this house, though. It was right in my price range. This butler was all too willing to just hand over the keys, and it came with a private beach club access, all the things that my place that I occupied for the next 4 years also came with. But this place just came with a bunch of gnarly energy attached to it, even though it was right in my sweet spot of what I could afford reasonably at the time. Here's the thing that I think is really important to remember as you're creating things in your world, that oftentimes what will happen is a contrast experience comes first. And most people, you probably heard me talk about this before, most people will grab the contrast experience first because they're too, dare I say the word, frightened that something better isn't going to come along. This happens with relationships. This happens with housing. This happens with jobs. This happens even with financial deals. For me, the key piece is to look at the opportunity that's before you and ask yourself, is this opportunity that's before me a clear and true vibrational match of the vibrations that I choose to encounter on the daily basis? And if there's any part of your energy system or your physical body that says no, definitely listen to that. And a process that I love, and I teach clients this, by the way, I teach some of these processes inside the Miracles portal. And if you're not already a member, you can get a free membership just by going to createmiraclesdaily.com. You can get a free month to the membership there. But this process of scanning the opportunity and saying, okay, is this a vibrational match? And if not, here's the process I'll teach you right now, is to say to the universe, thank you so much for this contrast opportunity. I see it as a contrast opportunity, and I'm sending it back with love. And I'm asking now for the match that's perfectly aligned for me to come through. And that's all that you need to do. So literally it's turning it down, it's saying no, and then asking for the universe to show you the energetic match for what you've been asking for. And for me, literally, once I turned this house down, the very next week is when I was guided to go search on the internet, and my perfect place came up, which, by the way, was just absolutely magical. It was a total sanctuary. Everybody who ever entered that home was like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing in here. It had a private beach club pass. It was within walking distance to my favorite hotel and my favorite beach. And it was just a magical, magical spot. And so I hope this episode really helps you today realize that it is a frequency first that you can install. And when you do the work to install enough of that energy, then your life can very quickly and easily send you back the match for that. So I hope you loved today's episode. I'd love to hear what you think about this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I already know what I think about it, so I'd love to hear what you think. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it, give it a like. It really helps us. It helps the channel and it helps support people creating from a divine place in this universe. I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being such a light and your presence on the planet. I love you so, so much. And until next week, bye for now.